we need to think for ourselves, and I think that's missing in today's culture. Don't trust the media, trust God. Most Americans want the same things, they just go about getting them in different ways. We all want freedom, we all want peace, we all want an opportunity for prosperity. These are all things that God wants for us.
Well, welcome to Think Like a Champion. My name is Rob, and I'm here with my dad, Gregory Dickow. Dad, how are you? How you feeling?
I'm doing great. I feel encouraged, inspired, positive, full of faith.
Come on.
I think every day is a gift, and we got to treat it as a gift, and we've got to find the good in everything. You know, look for the good, remember the good, be the good.
Wow.
We really need to be expecting the good. Like, let's expect that this is going to be the greatest day of our life, and it's going to keep getting better.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm expecting a great conversation here ahead, a great episode. Thanks for all those that are watching and or listening. I want to encourage you to subscribe to the Gregory Dickow podcast so that you never miss an episode. But let's dive into today's conversation because we have had an interesting, wild, crazy season here. Couple of weeks in the United States of America.
Yes. Let's address the elephant in the room. All right. Let's talk about that. Right.
Okay.
The most important event of 2024. We got to talk about it, and you know everybody knows what it is. Mike Tyson against Jake Paul coming up on Friday.
There it is.
Heavyweight bout between old and new. I used that on Sunday. Yeah,
that's awesome.
But old school meets new school. Old media meets new social media. It really is. It really is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But the elections took place this last week, and a lot of people were surprised. And I have a few takeaways that I want to talk about and I want to share.
By the way, Jackie was telling us she had an idea that we watch the fight live and live stream it. So maybe if you're interested in seeing that, would love to get your live commentary on the fight.
Yeah. I wonder who everybody's got. I mean, Mike Tyson is 58 years old.
Pretty crazy.
You know, he really is an American story of how people can change and how God is the God of second chances. It's really more of a God story than an American story, because it's true in any country. Everybody can have a second chance. Everybody can have even a third chance if they need it. And Mike Tyson, you know, came through a lot, went through a lot, and shows us that never give up and never quit dreaming and never quit trying and never quit trying to be your best.
Yeah, he's got that quote, everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth,
right?
Something like that.
Yeah, it's a great
classic.
Quote. We're very classic. And you know, think like a champion. I love the boxing comparisons, and now we've had this election, which is like a boxing or a competition as well in our country. It's something that there were more people betting on. Like, there was more Las Vegas betting on this presidency than I think any other political event ever.
Wild.
It's amazing how things have turned into not just political competition, but they've become such a money-making schemes or money-making ways for those who are in gambling. And I don't encourage people to gamble on stuff, except good investments like bet on yourself.
Wow.
Right?
Great word. Let's talk about what happened. We don't really talk politics on the podcast. You always have had an amazing perspective on politics and how to navigate it, but have a spiritual, like, rooted in faith and trust in God and all that. But it was very different than I think any kind of election we've experienced before. And I know just because we've had some conversation offline about it, and you've got some lessons, some takeaways that you're taking from this experience. And I think it's great that we all look at this and figure out, regardless of who we voted for and who we support, what do we learn to be better people going forward? Because it was messy, it was kind of nasty, it was a little crazy, and conversations around it were crazy. And so talk to me about some of the takeaways that you're walking away from this with and adapting and applying, I should say, to your life.
Yeah, I think I think when it comes to the elections, I want to dive into this, but I want to say about Think Like a Champion. This podcast is really designed to help people discover the mindsets and the mentalities to live out the champion life God created us to live out. And so, one of the things I learned through this election is there are people that are going to tell you how to think, and they're going to tell you what to think, but we need to think for ourselves. And I think that's missing in today's culture. So I think so much of the drastic, extreme sides of the political spectrum, they're too toxic. They're too unforgiving, unrelenting. They put shame on people for not agreeing with them. I think the media took the biggest loss in this election because we know how biased they are. They revealed, most people already saw it, they revealed how biased they are.
Yeah.
85% positive on one candidate and 90% negative on another candidate. And I know there are people that actually probably think that that's because it's true. And I think really we're all flawed. And the extremes are never right, because the extremes are always ones that are polarizing and divide, and they're divisive rather than something that unites and unifies. And I think we got to become unified. Mm-hmm. Whoever wins the president in America, whoever wins the election, they're the president of the whole country. Now, you don't have to like them, you don't have to agree with them, but they're still the president of the country, and they have such an important part in this world's events. And even in our world as Christians and as believers and as churches and nonprofit organizations, America is great because it's a free country where we can have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, right? All of those things we live in every day. Freedom of speech is a huge freedom to protest peacefully, right? So all these freedoms, the freedom to vote, we've been given so much freedom, and we need to live that freedom and value that freedom. I don't think we should ever get so caught up in the election that we forget what freedoms we're really fighting for. And but my goal is to help people to learn how to think for themselves, not what to think, but how to think. And so my first takeaway, let's talk about it. My first takeaway from this election is most Americans want the same things. They just go about getting them in different ways, and they have a different belief on how to get those things. And I think that when we settle the temperature down, the emotions down, let the emotions subside before you decide. We all want freedom. We all want peace. We all want an opportunity for prosperity. Mm-hmm. These are all things that God wants for us. He promises us freedom. He promises us peace. Yeah. He promises us prosperity. He promises us his protection and provision for our lives. So I think everybody in America, most people, right, most common sense thinking people, they want the freedom, they want the peace, they want opportunity for prosperity, they want a safe country, they want a safer world. And I think we deserve that. I think Americans deserve that. And that's what people voted for in this election, and we can't ignore it or deny it or pretend it didn't happen if we are somebody who may have voted a different way. And we need to be able to give each other the room and the space to have different opinions. I believe to have differences without divisions, to have diversity without divisions. That's the goal in my life. It's the goal in our church. Mm-hmm. It's something we actually see in our church. We're a melting pot of every nationality, every race, the two genders that do exist, and everybody who's confused about that. God gives room to people to figure that out too. But ultimately, we're created in His image, male and female, and I think more people are coming to that place of common sense, even in that arena as well. So I think it's healthy. I think it was a healthy experience, but we all pretty much want the same things. We just have to decide how are we going to go about them. We got to do it with peace. We got to do it with kindness. We got to do it with empathy for people that disagree.
Yeah. I think that a lot of what was happening was we were getting so caught up in what we disagree about, and I think just what I think you're pointing out here is like we need to be celebrating the things, celebrating our differences, but finding common ground. I think that was kind of what was lacking in my experience. The conversations I was having with friends, and it was all about, this is what you're not seeing, and this is what I'm seeing, and this is why we're seeing it differently, rather than, well, let's get to the common ground that we both have on some of these things.
It's true in life, it's true in marriage, it's true in business, that there are going to be a lot of different opinions, and you got to be willing to compromise, and you got to be willing to discuss and have discourse without having to be heated emotionally. I mean, Jesus says in Romans chapter 12, the Bible says, don't be conformed to this world. I think this is something that is very dear to me, because we do this thing every year, and because you're so involved in it, but we call it fast from wrong thinking, right? Mm-hmm. Where we dissect the 40 major thought patterns and mindsets and mentalities of failure and turning those mindsets into mindsets of success. We identify what the human nature is that causes us to think negatively and with negativity, and we flip the script on negativity, and we show people how to abstain from the wrong ways of thinking and how to adopt new ways of thinking that are victorious, and mindsets of champions, mindsets of winners. God calls us more than conquerors, right? Mm-hmm. So a person who has God in their life has a built-in a sense and navigation towards victory and towards winning in life, not against others, but winning against the previous version of ourselves, right? And so Romans 12 talks about how God's way of changing us is through an inward renewing of our mind that brings transformation to our life, versus this world's system in Romans chapter 12, where it says, don't be conformed to this world. He's talking about this world system, its ways of thinking, rooted in fear, rooted in negativity, rooted in self-preservation, rooted in being self-absorbed rather than self-aware. And God has a higher life for us. And so I think it's really important that we realize that transformation comes from the inside, rather than indoctrination from a political party or intimidation from the media or from political parties. Like, people have got to think for themselves. This is the biggest lesson that I've learned in this arena of politics. If you group everybody together, it's going to create division. But if you let everybody and realize everybody has the right to think freely, it's way more powerful. Mm. Don't be conformed. Do not be a conformist. God put everyone on this earth as an individual, and everyone has an ability to think for themselves. I think everybody has to take inventory of what the good things are that they have in their lives, the treasure that they have in their life. Everybody has a destiny. Everybody has a purpose. Everybody has God-given talents, God-given treasures, God-given uniqueness. And I think when we make everybody conform, making everybody have to think the same, believe the same, act the same, it's really the opposite of what God created us as individuals. There's no snowflake that looks alike. Mm-hmm. There's no person that looks alike. There are some that are similar, but everyone is uniquely different. There's no set of fingerprints that are the same for two people. So God went to great lengths to make us individuals, and we need to celebrate individuality and diversity rather than conformity. So be transformed from the inside out. Take in positive energy rather than negative energy. Don't subject yourself to negativity. Subject yourself to positivity, faith, energy that brings the power to do great things. Yeah. We should be believing to do great things. No matter who's president, we all have the opportunity to become great. Mm-hmm. I think it's great to make America great or make America better. I think most of us think America is great, but it needs to be better, and we've been better, and we can get better. But how about making yourself great? Making yourself a better listener, making yourself a better learner, making yourself better in relationships. I'm talking to myself here too when I'm saying that, to make ourselves better. I want to get better every day. It's one of my goals, is to get better at something every day, to improve in some small way every day. I think we can do that as individuals. I think we can do that in our church. I think we can do that in our culture, in our community. We can't let culture dictate who we can be. We want to let God awaken in us who we can be.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Down with conformity, up with transformity.
Great.
Yeah.
What else? What else are you taking away from this experience?
I think that no matter what happens, I've lived through I don't know how many presidents, many in 60 years of my life. But the one thing I've learned more than anything is trust God. Don't trust the media, trust God. Don't trust what the school tells you, trust God. Don't trust what anybody just tells you, trust God, and examine for yourself. I think scrutinizing what we believe and what we think should be a daily practice. Like, we should be examining what we think. You know, it says in Acts chapter 17 about these people that Paul was speaking to, introducing them to the gospel. And it says these people in Berea, they were more noble-minded than the Thessalonians because they searched the scriptures daily to see if these things were true. So I always like to tell people when it comes to voting, every cycle, go with the person that you think best represents the freedoms that God promises us in the Bible. Go with what enforces or endorses God's, the way God created us. And sometimes that's very obvious and sometimes it's not. I think it's healthy to have two powerful political parties, but I think that they have too much power, number one. And number two, I think they go into too far extremes. And I think that we got to get rid of the extremists. We got to get rid of letting the extremists speak for the rest of us.
Right.
And find common ground. 50 years ago, there were more civil debates. Now there's so much. 60 years ago, 70 years ago, it was more about the policies and the facts, not shaming everybody or making everybody have to conform to political correctness. Yeah. I think it's wrong in either extreme, and I think we have to empower people to think for themselves. I know that's repetitive in this moment, but I think we have to trust. Like, one of the takeaways from this experience for me is your assumptions are correct. The media can't be trusted. When they're in it for the money, they're in it for business, they're in it for ratings. Mm-hmm. They're not trying to be distributors of truth. They're trying to be distributors of controversy and something that gets the attention of others.
Yeah, I think there's always a good test of just checking in on the motives behind whoever is feeding you information, even if it's a friend or someone you know or the news. Like, what is the motivation for them behind communicating this to me? And
is it emotion that's being offered, or is it information that's being offered?
Yeah,
and I think
right.
that was not really given fairly to us as Americans. We weren't given clear information as much as we were given so much just emotion. I think it was just more emotionally charged, and I think we have to value our emotions, but we have to not let our emotions rule us and master our emotions rather than allowing our emotions to master us. I think another takeaway is the government does not know how to spend your money better than you do. We need to get the government out of our lives more than to get them in our lives more. The government should be our representatives that represent us. That's how the founding fathers established it. They weren't supposed to be professional politicians for the rest of their lives. There was term limits that are given to presidents. There should be term limits, I believe, given to every political position, because the culture changes, the things that matter to people changes. Mm-hmm. But fundamentally, the politicians are supposed to be representing the voice of the people, of the people, for the people, and by the people, right? Not professional politicians that just raise money to stay in power. I think that's a very flawed part of our national political system, as it is, I'm sure, in other countries as well. But take responsibility for yourself. Like right now, President Biden is our president. Let's pray for him, and let's believe that whatever his administration is capable of doing successfully for the American people in the next 2 months, we want them to succeed at it. The good things that they want to try to fulfill. I don't think they should just go away. They should lead and implement the best that they know to implement for the sake of the people. Then when President-elect Trump becomes president in next year, 2025, we need to pray for him. Like, here's the thing. We've been given this freedom, and we've been given a voice. Everybody has a voice. I think my takeaway, everybody has a voice, and no voice should be silenced. Every voice should be given the opportunity to express itself in a respectful manner. We have the right to vote. That's our voice. We have the right to pray. That's our voice. How do we express our voice? We express our voice through praying. We express our voice through voting. We express our voice through social media. You know, the mainstream media isn't in control of all the information anymore. Now there are other avenues that people can get their information from. I think many people think mainstream media is dead or dying. I tend to, we all tend to see sort of the effects of that. And people are finding for themselves on other social media platforms where they can learn things. And I think we should all be fact checkers. We shouldn't let any political party do the fact checking for us. Let's fact check for ourselves. Is that really in the Bible? Yeah, it is. There it is. How do we live this out? Is that really something that happened? Is that really what a person believes? Is that really what a person's going to do? Like, we should not give in to what the herd are saying and what the crowds are saying, but what are you saying, and what are you, when you examine the things in front of you, whatever that happens to be? Americans want their government to back down from controlling their lives. I think that's what the voice of the people has spoken.
Yeah, I think the issue there is that many of us are not fully taking control of our own lives, and that's kind of the
true.
point that you're bringing up, is we need to take back control and focus on what we can control, which
powerful.
Is ourselves.
You can control your emotions. You can control your words. You can control how you treat people. You can control the decisions you're going to make. Like, this Bible is full of 7,000 promises, right? And the day before the election that we had on November 5th, the day before November 5th, every one of these promises were true. The day after November 5th, guess what? Every one of these promises are still true. And after January 20th next year, every one of these promises is still going to be true. And till the cows come home and kingdom come, every promise in this Bible is true.
Yeah.
And when we live by something greater than man's opinion, greater than man's promises, we have something greater, God's promises. And when we have to stop putting our hope in the promises that people make to us, we have to put our hope and faith in the promises God makes to us. That is a life lesson that I think everybody should take away from not only this election, but from life in general.
It's powerful.
Yeah. Whose promises are you going to build your life upon? If you build your life upon your own promises and other people's promises, it's probably going to collapse. But you build your life on God's promises, and then learn to keep your promises, because you learn that God keeps his promises. You're going to have a great life no matter who the president is and no matter where you live. These truths will work under any government. These truths will work for any person because they're invisible truths, but they become visible when we begin to act on them, and when we begin to believe them, and we begin to pray them, these promises come to pass. Yeah. The invisible becomes visible.
Awesome. We're talking about takeaways from the election experience. What else do you have? We're talking about a lot of stuff here. It's very empowering, very encouraging, very hopeful. What else are you taking away?
I think this is something we should take away and we should apply to every part of our life, and that is, we're not great at discourse and healthy debate. We are not great at that. There was a time in history where debates were built upon fact and the ability for somebody to persuade another person based on their explanation of the facts related to whatever the debate is about. Now it's emotional. Now it's using extreme language that we've got to lower the temperature. We're not great at healthy conversations. We're not great at having the difficult conversations. And I think we have to improve. We all, as individuals, have to improve in conversations. We're better at talking than we are at listening. Everyone wants to be heard, but not everybody wants to listen. I think we gotta reverse that. We need to learn to listen to others, and then we'll earn the respect to be heard by others. If we learn to listen to others and respect what they're really saying, respect their opinion, we don't have to agree with it, but if we'll listen with empathy and try to put yourself in another person's shoes, we have to think like that. We have to relate like that. And otherwise we talk over each other.
Yeah.
So we've got to learn. Everyone wants to be heard, but not everyone wants to listen, and that needs to change. And I mentioned there are 3 things that give you a voice in this world: voting, praying, and communicating effectively your point of view in a way that doesn't put anybody else at harm.
Yeah, I think a lot of what I was noticing and trying to avoid getting caught up in was that people are coming to conversations minds already made up, opinions already formed, and all they care about is you seeing what we're all guilty of this. I'm guilty of this too. And there's a lack of open-mindedness and there's a lack of empathy that I think was preventing healthy conversations from happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of confirmation bias, right? We only want to hear what agrees with what we think.
Yeah.
And we don't want to challenge our own thinking. And I think critical thinking is lacking in Christians. They just do what a religion might tell them rather than thinking for themselves, praying for themselves, looking it up for themselves, studying it for themselves, interviewing people, asking people, research, study. Like, we have so many tools to get accurate information. We have real books, we have real history, we have online access, we have artificial intelligence. These can all be tools to inform ourselves, to learn ourselves, to research for ourselves. We have most of all the greatest document of all, the Bible. The American Constitution is a great document, but it is inferior to the Word of God. But it is a powerful tool and a powerful instrument by which a country should be run. But if you run your life based on the principles of this book, not all the rules are the same. There's different times, there's different dispensations. Sometimes he's referring to a certain group of people, but not another group of people. We have to understand the context. Yes, thank you very much. When placed in proper context, this is how to live a victorious, happy life. What is God's way of approaching life? Approach life with a critical thinking of, let me examine what I grew up with.
Yeah.
Let me examine what others have told me. Let me examine what I'm hearing. Let me examine it. Even my feelings. Let me examine my feelings and keep them in check.
Yeah.
And God's given us a great tool, His written word and the Holy Spirit to help us understand those things.
Do you think that part of the reason why people aren't critically thinking is maybe there's a fear that it's what I believe is wrong, or there's a fear that I won't know how to defend what I believe, and I've grown up with this, so I just know that it's true, but I don't know why I believe it's true. So do you think that has something to do with why we don't maybe have conversations that are healthy, because we're afraid to even open up what we believe to critique and to criticism and to even...
Well, that's why a lot of people didn't tell anybody who they were voting for, too. If you came out as a Trump supporter, people frowned upon that. The culture frowned upon that, elements of the culture, and vice versa at times. But I think I think we have to be fair-minded and objective and really examine, where is their shame? Wherever people are deploying shame to get you to think a certain way or to do a certain thing, we got to call that out. We have to call that out. We got to call BS on that. We got to call it out. We can't let anybody, even people we respect, we cannot let people shame us into having to vote a certain way, believe a certain way, think a certain way. We have a really screwed up educational system. We have hostile educational systems that where Jews are being attacked, others are being attacked. Various groups, Christians have been attacked and persecuted on college campuses in America. It's really sad. And why is that? Because the real enemy is the devil. It's not another political party. Sometimes it's the extreme people in those political parties or extreme views. The devil can operate through those extremes, but the devil is the real enemy, and we got to call out the real enemy. Love covers a multitude of sins, but the devil exposes everything wrong with everybody, but God covers. So I think we have to recognize Satan is a hater, an accuser. The devil is real. We have to understand the devil wants people divided. He wants people attacking others. He wants people to shame others. He wants people to be shamed. Don't be a tool of the devil. Be a tool of God that liberates people. Anybody that liberates others and says, hey, I might not agree with you, but you have the right to believe that. And that's a powerful thing. And you have a right to say that. That's a powerful thing. I think the media censorship got exposed in this election cycle as well. I think that even Zuckerberg and different heads of these formerly, or maybe they still are, like very censor based. They decide what should be said and what can't be said and what shouldn't be. And I think they are coming to realize, and he even I think admitted that he was pressured by the previous or one of the current administration. Zuckerberg claimed he was pressured to censor certain things. Yeah. I mean, that's not a Republican point of view. That's fact.
Conspiracy.
Yeah, it's reality. It's not a conspiracy. And I think that the censorship got exposed, and I think people have to wake up to that. And freedom of speech is freedom of speech, and attacking someone because they disagree with you. And we saw that on news reports. We saw that on campuses. We see that in wars that are in this world. We should be going after peace and not war. We should be going after what we agree about, not what we disagree about. We should be going after those things. And I think the biggest winner in this election is the individual. Each individual is the winner because each individual has the power to vote, whether their candidate won or not. Each individual has the power to now pray whether the candidate won or not. And each individual has the power to make their life better based on the decisions that they make.
Yeah, I love it. I think you're bringing the power back, or revealing the power that we all have had this whole time.
Yeah.
And we've kind of been lied to and convinced that someone else holds the power for us, and we need to trust them and we need to listen to them. And everyone's going to do that. I think in the politics and government and entertainment, like there's always going to be people that are trying to convince you depend on them.
Yeah.
And
that's good. That's
we
right.
need to depend on God, and we need to understand the power that's inside of us. So I'm like, I love that you're waking us up to that, reminding
the power
us of
inside
that.
of us. Take inventory of what you have, right?
Yeah.
You have enough. You have what you need. God has given us power, love, and a sound mind. I think we have to really realize what we have. And I think, the devil, we have to expose the devil here. The devil can use anyone who is available to him, and God can use anyone who's available to him. If a person makes themselves available to hate, the devil will use them through hate. If a person makes themselves available to love, God will use them through love. So make yourself available to the things of God. Make yourself available to goodness, not evil. Make yourself available to empathy and to have respect for others. And let me kind of wrap it up a thought here, because one of my final takeaways is, and you've heard me say this a million times, the best government is self-government.
Yeah.
You have the power to make your life what you want it to be. and God will help you, and God will empower you, or God will give you wisdom, but he gave you the power. Don't blame anyone for anything, and you will succeed in life. Don't be objective at investigating what you believe and what the assumptions are that others are telling you to believe. Do the examination, the research for yourself, and take charge of your life, take charge of your emotions, take charge of your words, take charge of your choices, and build a life that is worthy of emulating for other people. And that's the best takeaway that you can get out of any election.
Yeah. Yeah, you said a great phrase just a moment ago, take inventory.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we would all benefit from, is taking a step back and taking inventory internally. What do I have in my house? What do I have control of today? What part of my life am I able to influence today? You're a big proponent of that. You always remind us about that. Think Like a Champion is all about getting control of your thought life. And as you do that, you will be able to control the outcomes of your life.
Your thoughts become your beliefs become your behaviors become your habits form your character, and your character determines your destiny. It determines how high you'll go or how low you'll go. Your character good, you're going up. Character bad, going down.
Yeah.
And that's something all of us can get on that train, right? Your thoughts lead to your beliefs to your behaviors to your habits to your character to your destiny. Everybody has that right where they're at in life. Make progress in that process today.
It's powerful. Should we wrap up
Yeah,
here? It's great,
man.
Great stuff. Thank you for taking time to walk us through what you're processing. This is where I come to get built up, to get reminded of who I am, reminded of what I have in my control. So thank you for leading the way.
You're welcome.
Thank
you.
Absolutely.
Great job. Don't conform, transform.
Awesome.
That's God's way.
Go ahead and subscribe to Think Like a Champion. Subscribe to the Gregory Dickow podcast on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen. New episodes every single Thursday, so don't miss it. Make sure you hit subscribe. Dad, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for talking today. I love you.
I love you too.
And we'll talk soon on Think Like a Champion.
Awesome.